Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have a show of UFOs tonight. Mindy Tautfest and Teri, Lynge, Kale are here, and we are going to be talking about them aliens all night long. Why not? We get an opportunity to do so. And remember, friends don't let friends UAP. That's the truth. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. The best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you here as well, including Race Fan in the gold medal position, Richard Minnick with a silver, SJ with a bronze medal tonight, Attorney at Large, Michael Morris, Hippie Deidre, Kitty Caddywhack, good to see you. Hi there, Robert Lamoth, Paul Demon, Bill Sardellis, Tuxin MUFON is here. Tuxin MUFON will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio, B.A. Baracus, Moody Mongol, Erlam, Australia. Nice to see you all. Hi there, Carol Amario, JSCO. Thank you for coming on in. Human Carl is here, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you around here. Let's bring in Mel WD-40 to lube us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You do not want any rigidness when you're talking aliens and UFOs. So lube us up, Mel. Lube us very, very well. D. Cypher, Necessary Dialogue. Good to have you here. So we continue on with our roll call. Frankie B., number 29 in your program, starting at center ice from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson, Ethanol, thank you for joining us. And just another guy named Harry. Millennium, my man. Laura Lobbs, nice to have you all here. Gory Tiger, thanks for coming on in. Same to you, Thomas Rock, as we continue on with our roll call. Xanos, good to see you. Operation Shutdown. Ozzy Ange in the studio. Thank you for joining us. Hello there, Paula Fost. Paula Fost will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Sandra Kincaid, good to see you. Hi there, Digger Dog. Phil the Stalker, thank you for joining us. Flat Six, Pam Harris, Nikki in Seattle. Good to have you all here. Karen and the Woo Train. Bombshell Bomber. Good to see you. Matthew Goodka. Nice to have you here. Hi, Walter. Scott Rosen. Lee the Bee. And, oh, look at that. It's the guy who has aliens himself. Mike Dizzle on X. Nice to see you. The Dizzler has returned. Enrique, thanks for joining us. Hi, Broken Shadow Figure. Or Feather, pardon me. Overlander up in Prince George. Good to have you here. How's your snow level today? We got about 3 inches. So it wasn't too bad. Scrolling on down, Phil the Stalker. I know I said yo, but I'm going to say it again. Skip, how you doing? And who else is new here or in here? Stu F. and Gerson. Nice to see you. Super Crazy, Marty Burback, and Super Knower. Thanks for coming on in. Paramarv, Jeff Steve Garvey. He'll hit a home run for you. Monica, thanks for joining us. And we are going to start the radio and podcast side. Hold on. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. It is always a pleasure to talk UFOs, ET contact, and much more with you. And tonight's guests, Mindy Tautfest and Teri, Lynge, Kale are here. We're going to have a good time with them. Both have very nice hair. So that's going to be a good plus on tonight's show because my hair looks terrible. We are in roll call on YouTube right now as we say hello to Phyllis Boucher Perry. Thanks for coming on in. I think after that we are caught up. Yes, we are. Look at that. I got them all in so far. Yes. Algaray over on Twitch. 15 sets of 100-pound bicep curls to warm up for the alien talk tonight. Good job. He's jacked for tonight. Reminder to all of you, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And of course, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and actually be proud to wear it to more places than just a garage sale or a flea market. Throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SLR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out, Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We're going to have an amazing show on UFO Talk tonight. Mindy Tautfest and Teri Lynge are here to talk about their new UFO endeavor. Yeah, we're looking for good places to send your reports. Guess what? I found you one. So we'll get to them momentarily. Then in hour number 3, it's jam-packed. We have Swamp Dweller to kick it off, followed up by Little Timmy James in the UFO report. It's Dave 101 night and the weird news of the week, including Sasquatch causing a divorce in British Columbia. You can't make this stuff up. It's true. All right, let's get to our guests here. Mindy Tautfest is a published author, speaker, television personality, and the curator of the Hayden C. Hewes International UFO Bureau. An Oklahoma native, Mindy got her start while investigating hauntings in the Sooner State in search of answers to her own mystifying experiences. Mindy is a former member of the Mutual UFO Network in that capacity, where she served as Dean of MUFON University, the Oklahoma State Director of MUFON, and was a member of the Experiencer Resource Team. Teri Lynge, is an accomplished keynote speaker and has presented at numerous conferences and symposiums. And believe it or not, a long time ago, she had been on this show a couple of times. Yeah, she was awesome then, and she's going to be awesome tonight. And together they have formed a new UFO team. I'm not going to name it right now because that's going to be their job to introduce their team to you. And you know what I like about it? It's just about reports. It's not about politics. It's not about trying to mess people over in the UFO field because there's too much of that. It's strictly about taking care of people who need a place where they could trust their information to go, because people are wondering, where do I turn to? You know, you go to Enigma Labs, they allegedly send all of their stuff to the government. You go to other places, it's the same way. So tonight, something new. Let's bring them on and have some fun. Mindy and Teri. Coming on Space Radio. Appreciate you. Mindy, it's your first time. Teri, your third time on the show.
Hey.
Well, thanks for having us, Dave. I'm sitting there cracking up at all your comments. Like, it's so great to connect with our cousins up to the north. You guys have such a great sense of humor, and it's just, it's wonderful.
Well, I'm glad you're here, because the one thing that I love is I love new initiatives. I love being able to support and promote people who are trying to do things the right way. And you guys have come up with a new team. Mindy, I'm going to let you introduce what you and Teri have started, because I think it's pretty interesting.
Okay. Well, it's actually nothing new. We have restarted the International UFO Bureau. And this was actually started back in 1957 by Hayden C. Hewes. And he was only a teenager when he started it. He had such an interest in UFOs back then. I think he was like 13, 14 years old. He would write to all these heads of state and astronauts and people in the space program, anyone he could think of, to get their thoughts on UFOs. And at one point, he had written to Nikita Khrushchev, who was the premier of Russia, and said, hey, what do you think about UFOs? And by the way, I know that you guys went around on the backside of the moon. Could you send me any pictures? And he did. He sent him a package of all of this stuff. And so here's 13-year-old Hayden Hewes at home, and his mom gets a knock at the door by two men dressed in dark suits who want to talk to Hayden. And she said, that's my teenager. What do you want with him? And he came out, and kind of sheepishly was like, yeah, I've got these pictures that Russia sent me of the backside of the moon. And at that point, he was hooked. And he and one of his friends from high started up the Bureau, and he stuck with it for decades, all through the 70s, 80s. And whenever he passed in 2017, I was looking into another case that had happened back in the 70s here in Oklahoma. It was down in the southeast corner. And I had kept coming across Hayden's name, and I reached out, and funny enough, his widow lives right across the street from me. So, no. Yes. And so she said, honey, Hayden would want you to have these and carry that on. And at the time I had taken over the archives, it was in the spirit of getting it all digitized so that we could bring all of this to the public. At the time, it was just kind of sitting in a storage unit, and it was just going to go to waste. And in going through this, there are amazing things. He has the original Jimmy Carter, handwritten Jimmy Carter report was filed with the Bureau. And we can get into some of the major investigations that they handled back in the day, but there's lab results from the well site there at Aurora, where the crash happened in 1897, and they did a whole investigation in the 70s. And so there's a long history of this Bureau. And after leaving MUFON, I had so many people come to me and say, please do something, please start something up. And I said, well, I have this Bureau. And of course, Teri here being my best friend, we've worked together through thick and thin for the last, 3-4 years, and said, okay, let's do something different. Let's get a woman-owned Bureau up and staff it with a board of experiencers and people that understand the phenomena. So that's kind of where it started off. And I'll hand it over to Teri, because I'm sure she has some things to say too.
Well, you're doing a great job. And it's all so beautiful because it is coming together in such a way that we could have never even expected. So many people were reaching out to us going, where are you? What are you doing? We want to be with you. And it was just so beautiful. And I love that it's experiencers. I love that everybody in there is so passionate, very concerned, wanting to come into a new conversation about what is truly happening out there, and why we've been asking all the wrong questions for years. Even being on the board in the past with MUFON and being the director of memberships and all these different titles, the overseers group, and running podcasts and all of this, nothing new was really coming through. There was nothing of any great interest. And I really always felt that it was because things were just so not well put together, I guess you could say. Mindy and I, 3.5 years ago, started training everybody the same way so that it was cohesive. In the past, for all those years, which is hard to believe, they're not as old as the Hayden Hewes IUFOB. They're only from 69, and IUFOB was from 57. But in all those years, not one person had ever figured out that when you have people that are doing all these different things, that you would have to train them in the same manner. So this is what we were doing. And it became so evident that we really needed to dig deep. There was nothing cohesive. And it started us on a different path, actually, and showed us so many different things. And we are now able to utilize all of this in a very constructive way. And I'm so proud of Mindy. I mean, she really is a tough worker. She doesn't stop. You know, I mean, we would spend hours on the phone every day for the last 3.5, 4 years. Hours, 6 hours at a time, you know, meticulously going over why things aren't working and how they need to be so that they can work. And I'm, like I said, just so proud that we have been able to bring things together in a way that no one is doing, not Enigma, not any of the other groups out there. You know, we are not just a reporting agency, but we can actually do the deep and hard work, you know, and we can figure out what is going on. And with the experiences of all the people, not only on the board, but the ones that are now signing up to be subscribers, we're finding we're getting more information. And a lot of the people are from top secret government, you know, retirees and this kind of thing. And it's just so inspiring. I'm so happy to be a part of it. It's, there are no words. I mean, I'm just very proud of what is being done. And there's no judgment. There's no, you know, it's all what you see is exactly what you get. And it's all coming from honesty and care. We really care about people and what's been happening to them. Because as you know, Dave, you know, when somebody has an experience, this is from otherworldly sources. This is from something that is not in the natural realm. And it is life-changing. For every single person, it's life-changing. And you can't always wrap your head around that, you know, and a lot of things are connected to that. Like we were talking earlier, Sasquatch or Yeti. These things are often seen after there are some type of UFO or lights or even orbs and different things. Always, however, in a forest. You know, it's not like it just happens, you know, on a beach or, you know, in a city. It's always in a very specific place. And so we're looking at patterns. We're looking at who is this Sasquatch? What is this? And I know it's real. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. And had I not seen it, I can honestly tell you, I could have never believed it. That's how life-changing and amazing these otherworldly things actually are. And so, you know, again, all I can say is this is amazing fun. It is a way to learn and deepen our understanding about what's happening in this world we're living in. And I'll take a break and let somebody else talk.
Well, Teri, I'm going to follow this up with you, and then I want to get Mindy's answer on this.
Sure.
Why do you care so much? And I mean that not as an insultive question. I mean that as a positive question.
Yes, I care because when it happened to me, when these things came into my life in 1979, I was horrified. I was shocked. I was this little Christian girl raising my 2 children. I didn't want to know anything about UFOs. I didn't want to know anything about extraterrestrials. To me, that was just comic book entertainment. It was stupidity and then some. And so to me, from where I was coming from, I needed to understand what was happening. I needed to know for myself what just happened to me. I'm not crazy. I have a healthy IQ. You know, I was holding a job at Honeywell Aerospace. I mean, what happened? This is why I care so much. I care about how the person is coming into the moment, is coming into it. And I understand their thought processes. And I care because we do question our own sanity, because there is nothing else like this in the world, in our lives. This is not normal. It truly is paranormal. It truly is odd and frightening. And this is the other thing. I had nobody to go to. I talked to my mother about it, who was an executive with Honeywell Aerospace at the time. My sister was a secretary, as I was. Just previous to this, I had been laid off, but I was waiting to go back on the Gemini project. And my mother told me, don't ever tell anybody anything about this, Teri, because they'll think you're nuts. Okay. And she said, you'll never get hired back by Honeywell if you start talking about aliens. So keep your mouth shut. And I wanted my job back. So I kept my mouth shut. But what that did was I then had to internalize all of this, and I couldn't figure it out. And there was nobody to help me. I had no one, nobody in my sphere or in my life at that time was talking UFOs. And so I understand when that person is really fearful and can't wrap their mind around it and don't know who to talk to or even how to enter that conversation. How do you even start that conversation when you've been traumatized? So this is why Mindy and I are doing what we're doing. She loves and cares as deeply as I do. And I love that woman because of that. I really do. We're so much alike. She's like the mini me. And the minute I met her, I knew this was a divine appointment, that this person was somebody that would come alongside me and could understand what was really happening here. And so many people where we were previously just didn't care, you know. It really wasn't about caring for people or taking care of them. So this is who we are now, and this is what we're doing now. I'm going to have to give it a minute. I'm getting over a really bad cold.
No worries, Teri.
The more I talk, the worse it gets.
Mindy, I want to ask you about this because I know you're an experiencer. I know this is very close to your chest about, you know, the caring that you have for experiencers and uncovering what people are going through. When you put it all together to formulate your thoughts on everything, why do you do this? Why do you put in the time? You are a professional. You are a mother. You are a wife. You are a family person. You are somebody who has a lot going on, but yet you're making time for so many people to believe and investigate their experiences.
Absolutely. Well, and I kind of came at it in a very strange way. Mine wasn't quite as straightforward. So if we go back to 2016, and I'll tell you this just kind of quickly. 2016, I was an ICU nurse and I had a brain aneurysm. that is called a vertebral artery dissection. It's almost like a brain aneurysm and a stroke together. I was 36 years old. My kids were elementary age, and my husband was actually a pastor at the time. And so I was a Southern Baptist pastor's wife living out on a 300-acre wheat farm in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. And here I have this aneurysm while I'm home alone on the couch. It was actually on election day between Trump and Hillary. And so, I think that would almost drive anyone to have an aneurysm. But in having that, I ended up crossing over and having a near-death experience where I went to the void. And that was something that was so troubling to me because I had no idea where I was. I was ripped out of my body. I won't go into everything. I actually wrote a book on the whole subject, what happened, but just finding myself over there and realizing I was dead and, not being able to clap my hands and realizing I didn't have any kind of form. I almost felt like a dandelion, like a puff, just floating out here with this consciousness that was so expanded. And I was so heartbroken because I was praying while I was over there, praying for, Jesus to be my righteousness and for him to save me. I didn't understand why I was not like immediately in heaven. And I was praying for my family because I was worried that my kids had come in and found my body by now. And so I was in a lot of distress. And in that time, I ended up meeting a non-human intelligence. It wasn't angel, it wasn't a deity, it wasn't a human, but it was very definitely male. And it came up behind me and he told me, "You're not going to be here forever." And when he did that, it was like instant relief. And then we started sailing off to the left. And as we did, I saw this purple glow. And as we got closer and closer, I could see all these intersecting lines in it that were bright pink. And then when they came together, it was bright yellow and it just glowed. I mean, it looked like a nebula, and it gave off this feeling of just peace and beauty and connection. And he told me that's the fabric of humanity. And I just kind of was in awe. He let me sit there and take it in. And I was kind of like, I want to go towards it. But he said no. And we sailed off and I was back in my body. And when I woke up, I had realized that I had had a stroke and, my arm was hanging limp and I couldn't speak. And it was just a mess. And this went on for a couple of years. Well, in part of my healing, I had to go through therapy for PTSD. And it took about 2 years for me to finally tell my husband about the near-death experience. But he completely accepted that. Before then, we didn't even believe that those things were real. We thought those were, tricks of demons and stuff. But to say that I had one and that I didn't go to heaven was quite a thing. So I understand the trauma that can come along with being taken out of your environment, with not having that control, and to be met with an entity or a non-human intelligence that you're not prepared for. I know it's different than UFO experiences, but I've always had that passion since I was a kid for UFOs, even though I was an experiencer of other types. So after I had kind of healed up from my medical trauma, I needed to do something to give back. And I found MUFON and realized, hey, I can actually investigate. And I joined up. And in talking to some of the other experiencers, when I was working on the experiencer resource team, they sounded like me. And I kept thinking, these people are just like me. What is the connection here? Go ahead.
Mindy, I'm going to get you to hold on. Teri, you hold on. We're going to continue with the UFO talk, and the IUFOB team of Mindy Tautfest, Teri, Lynge, Kale are here, and we're having a great time. We're going to get into some UFOs and experiences next on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned, everybody. All right, we're clear. Don't forget our radio and podcast audience can hear us. And that was a quick half hour.
Yeah, it was.
That was an hour?
A
half hour.
Oh, half hour. I'm like, what?
Well, Dave, you're hanging out with me and Teri now, and you just can't get us to shut up. So
I don't mind. Makes for great radio. Less I have to do the better. Less I have to do the better. So,
just jump in. You're being a gracious host. Thank you. But jump in and interrupt us because we will talk.
Talk away. You two talk away. But
yeah, the first time she called me, we talked for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Instant best friends.
I love it.
It hadn't stopped for 4 years. Our poor husbands.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. We go all day without eating. And then we're like, have you eaten anything? I'm starving.
I'm looking at your board of directors here. I'm really happy to see you guys got Jeremy Ray. I really like him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's
everyone's little brother.
Yeah, he is.
Jeremy's amazing.
When I got to meet him in Denver a few years ago, I was just so impressed with he's very quiet but extremely knowledgeable.
Oh my goodness.
Extremely knowledgeable.
He is.
He is the treasurer of our board. He actually brought along Tom De La Garza, and Tom was the chief air domain chief for NORAD previously. Oh, wow. That is one smart dude, and he has a heart for experiencers. No one that we brought on the board does not have a heart for experiencers. Right. And so that was something that was very important to us.
Yeah, they had to really be keyed in.
And then we also have Dr. Greg Rogers, he was the former chief of aerospace medicine for NASA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I apologize. I've never heard of Dan Borneman.
Well, no, he was with the Department of Defense. And so I knew him, and he is very knowledgeable, loves being a part of what we're doing, and supports us 100%.
His wife is an experiencer and has written a few books about her experiences. Yeah.
Rebecca Renfro. I don't know if you've ever interviewed her before, Scott.
No.
Dave. Jeez.
Mr. Scott.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, my hair is too messy for Mr. Scott tonight. So
it has certainly gotten a little whiter since I've seen you last time.
I know. I missed my haircut appointment in December, so now I have to wait until February.
Oh goodness!
Oh, that's just a couple weeks away.
Well, it's almost long enough you could do a little ponytail or something.
Almost.
Yeah. Throw some breadths in there, make it cute.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just talking to somebody about because my daughters are 26 and 21, and I miss doing hair.
Oh.
I'd be sitting on my chair watching hockey and before all the radio stuff and everything, and they'd come in, Dad, can you do my hair? They get out of the shade. Dad, can you do my hair? Can you braid my hair? Yes, I will.
Oh, how
cute.
That is adorable.
Oh, yeah.
Good for you.
Now, did you ever use the trick where you use the vacuum hose and you put the scrunchie over it?
No, I was never that guy. I wanted to try it. Never did.
It could have been disastrous. Yeah.
No,
now,
never
when Mindy comes back on, you have to say why you're so compassionate about what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. International UFO Bureau.com is the website, everybody. International UFO Bureau.com. We'll make sure we get that in the chat room.
Yes. And please subscribe.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I built that website. We're getting a better one coming from someone that
Yeah.
actually knows how to build websites, but I'm determined. So I will do whatever it takes.
Hold right there. Thank you to Human Carl and Raven for the super chats tonight. We greatly appreciate the love. And here we go with the second half hour, everybody. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. UFO talk, alien contact talk. Mindy Tautfest and Teri Lynge are here from the International UFO Bureau. And we are going to bring them right back here momentarily. My name is Dave Scott. I bring the woo to you each and every night. And that's why you love me. Each and every one of you love me. That's why you're here. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Mindy Tautfest, Teri Lynge from the International UFO Bureau. They are here talking all sorts of UFO stories here. Nope, Mindy, it's on your end, but that's okay. We'll get you talking in this. Now, Mindy, you never really continue on. Why experienced a UFO?
Barely hearing you, Dave. Can you hear
me
him, Teri?
Yeah, it's a little mumbled. There's other music playing or something else going on.
Shouldn't be.
Well, I can hear you now.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I was getting some feedback, so I'm just trying to figure out where that feedback was
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
from.
yeah.
That was weird.
What?
Aliens.
They're
happened?
listening.
When in doubt,
yes,
it is always
We're
aliens.
used to that.
Yeah, we're gonna blame them. Mindy, you've never had a UFO experience, correct?
Well, I've seen little lights in the sky and stuff like that. I've had flash bulbs and things. I'm not an abductee. That's what I was getting into right before we took the break, was being a near-death experiencer and then realizing how much the UFO experiencers and abductees actually sounded like me. And I thought, if this is real, if there really is a connection here, someone smarter than me has run into this. And so I started, looking at Google. Who else has seen this? Well, I came across Dr. Kenneth Ring, and he had actually done a study back in the 90s. He was the professor of psychology at the University of Connecticut back in the 90s, and he was on the board he actually created, with like Dr. Raymond Moody and others, International Association for Near-Death Studies. And he had a colleague that came to him and brought him a copy of Communion, written by Whitley Strieber, and said, look, you need to read this because this guy sounds like your near-death experiencers. And Dr. Ring said, no, I don't do UFOs. And the guy said, please just humor me, read it. And so he did. And he said, my goodness, you are absolutely correct. This guy sounds just like my near-death experiencers. And so he put together a whole book called The Omega Project, where he did a battery of questioning between near-death experiencers and UFO experiencers. And what he came to the conclusion of was that there were two commonalities between the two different types. Number one was an encounter-prone personality. And this is people that were able to go into themselves so much to the exclusion of their environment. So they were completely absorbing their mind into another reality. Yet they were not the kind of kids that were were not fantasy prone. So they weren't out making up stories and playing with fairies and, fighting dragons. They literally were connecting with another realm. And then The other thing was a set of after effects that happened to both sets where we all became more altruistic. We became younger looking, which is wonderful. I needed that. Let's see. We have electronic interferences. I fried several microwaves and laptops and stuff just with my energy right after that near-death experience. Light bulbs would explode. So there were all these different kinds of things that were happening, and we also become more open to other types of encounters. So I had a lot of spirit encounters and glowing kind of spirit orbs going through the house that my family would see. You know, these kinds of things really picked up in that first year or two right after my time of crossing over. So there's a lot of commonalities that the UFO experiencers also have. And we hear stories of the hitchhiker effect, or I had a lot of encounters as a child with Hat Man, which was a shadow figure that terrified the crap out of me. And that lasted.
Before we go any further, tell me one.
Tell you what?
Tell me one Hat Man story.
Oh gosh, I'll tell you one that actually happened. It was one of the last ones that happened, and I was in my 20s. This lasted all the way up. I had become an ICU nurse at 19. I had taken school concurrently to get my nursing degree. And so I was only 19 years old when I was working as a nurse. But in my early 20s, I was still living with my mother. I would go and do travel nursing jobs. I lived out in Jersey and I lived out in DC, and I was on my way out to Washington State when I met my husband. But I would come back after a 3-month job, you know, over in a different state, and I would just stay with my mom until I got another job and went on. Anyways, I was there staying with her, and one night Hat Man showed up, and there were all kinds of pops around the room. I could hear, you know, almost like the house settling, but it was like very distinctive knocks and bangs on my door. And I saw him standing over there, and I was terrified. It always terrified me, and I was always like immobilized. And then he disappeared. And the next thing I know, I hear my mother screaming in the next room, and she's, Mindy, come help me. And I run in there. I, you know, break free from that fear, run in there, and her legs are about 2 foot hanging off the end of the bed. And she said, the dang thing grabbed me and pulled me off the bed. And, you know, that was the only time that she had had an encounter with this Hat Man. But I mean, she never questioned me, but that was the only time it actually ever touched one of us or, you know, physically moved us. We would hear our names called from other rooms. There was a lot going on in my mother's house growing up, but I think that a lot of it was just, you know, probably poltergeist activity, with me being very connected with other realms, that it kind of let those things come in. And it, you know, me being a teenage girl, it just kind of made it go crazy. But after about 25 or so, when I got to about that age, it started kind of tapering off after I had kids. And it's just kind of an every once in a while thing now. So, but that was my main encounter growing up, was with that Hat Man. And I wonder, some people connect it with UFO activity.
I want to ask both of you, you know, as we get into more of the UFO alien side of things, over the last number of years since UFOlogy has come into play, we have seen a real move towards nuts and bolts. What are they? Where are they from? What is their propulsion systems? All sorts of questions. And the experiencers have kind of been pushed to the side. They have, you know, we don't need your stories. You have no proof. You have no evidence. You know, we don't need you. You're just going to complicate the entire field. You've heard it all. I'm preaching to the choir here. Why? Well, what do we have to do, Teri, in order to bring the experiential stories back and their...
There you go.
Yeah.
Getting some interference. Sounds like we have a little bit of the enemy on board.
Try that.
Nope.
Just in regards to the experience, why is
Go ahead and speak on that if you want me to, while you're messing with that with the audio. That's something that has been long-standing within the UFO field, is the nuts and bolts versus the experiencers. And so that's something that we have tried to bring together. It doesn't need to be a this or that. I think some people are looking at the experiences as a way to gain a upper hand in technology, whereas others are looking at it in a way to better understand our origins and our connections to others in the cosmos. And there is such a wide range of things that this one question, are we alone? Who are they? You know, I guess there's several questions, but relating to that, it opens up so many things, and it doesn't have to be this or that. So that's why we're, in speaking with experiencers, the more absurd that their story is, the more I tend to believe them, because there is such an absurdity factor to it that it makes it unbelievable. So people who are not experiencers, who do not understand that absurdity factor, they immediately write them off and they go, okay, but what about the craft? Well, there's the craft, and then there's the people who are piloting it. And we need to dig deeper and start understanding what are the correlations here. And that's one of the things we're trying to do with the Bureau, is bring in these reports. We're working with several different types of teams. One of the things that we're most excited about is the Native American initiative, and bringing in the leaders from Navajo Nation. We have the Paranormal Rangers, John Dover and Stan Milford are part of our team, and they will be actually going out to native tribal lands to investigate the sightings that have happened on those lands. We also have almost 500 reports that one of our board members, Michelle Miners, is bringing in, that she's collected of traditional stories from the native population and more recent encounters. And so we're looking at different populations that have been somewhat marginalized or downplayed or looked over, the minorities, people in the LGBTQ, and even women investigators within this field. We put up with so much that the men don't even realize, especially when we are working one-on-one with some of the experiencers. I've been, I've told you about this before, Dave. I've been threatened. I've been threatened to be shot. I've been stalked. I've, been propositioned, and these things happen to women in the field so often whenever we are standing up and being the investigators, and it needs to stop. And I think that's one of the things I'm very proud of with the Bureau, is that we can take that hard stand and make sure that women investigators with us are not facing those kinds of things. And if they are, we squash it immediately. And this is something I had brought up before within other organizations, that we need to address this and make sure that our women are protected. And again, it goes into being a safe place. It needs to be a safe place where everybody is welcome and feels safe to come and share their encounters, regardless of who they are, where they come from, what they believe. They need to have a place where they are believed and that they are treated with the respect they deserve. And so that's one of the things we're looking at, is how can we bring in some of these marginalized groups and understand what's happening within their populations that have never been reported. And one of those, taking the lead is that Navajo Nation and the First Americans. And then the other thing we're working with is the first responders. So being a collection house for our EMTs, paramedics, fire, and police, that they can come and share encounters that they've had, because there's things within the Bureau files from back when Hayden was running the Bureau that there was a report of a young girl who got burned here in Oklahoma City and was taken by ambulance to a hospital. She had said that she came in contact with the UFO, and I've never been able to find what happened to her. But had we had that kind of a thing in place where they could come to us and paramedics could share without sharing patient information, but hey, I treated someone and this happened, or I actually saw this, or there were 5 different people that reported a UFO, to have that corroboration between our first responders, because they're normally the first on the scene and they can tell us the most about what was happening whenever they arrived. So that's just some of the initiatives we're looking at right now.
Dave, one thing,
opinion too.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say was going back to your original question about identifying all these different scenarios that take place. We're not just dealing with ufology. A lot of times there is a crossover. We have different realms involved here. We have high strangeness with the demonic realms. We have angelic realms. We have extraterrestrial realms. We have things that are spiritual realms. There are so many different things to look at here to see what just exactly is happening. Like on skinwalker ranches and things like that, they have UFOs, but they have other things as well. We have Bigfoot and other things as well. We have orbs and all types of things that are more in the high strangeness, and we need to identify what is actually happening to somebody, take a good look at it and figure it out. And that takes somebody that has had a lot of experience and has had a lot of time to interview. I've interviewed thousands of people, and I've talked to thousands of people just out when I'm doing seminars or conventions or something like that. I've listened to so many different people and what they've experienced. And like Mindy said, sometimes it is very bizarre, and I cannot judge that person because my story is incredibly bizarre. Not only have I had extraterrestrial interaction, but my entire family has had over 70 years of interactions. My brother from my mother's first marriage, my half brother, my mother, myself, and my son have all been involved in very different ways by different entities, but all having to do with ufology. Mm-hmm. And each person that has these different experiences has it in their very own personal way. And no two are identical. They're all very different. So the good news is these entities are revealing themselves to people one-on-one, which I call personal disclosure. I don't need anybody to tell me that this is something that we need disclosure on. I already have disclosure, as well as so many others who have had that one-on-one interaction. And like Mindy also said earlier with her situation with near death, that's a whole nother realm, but it happens to so many people either before or after, an experience with extraterrestrials. And these things are very real. And we have hybrids, we have all these different entities, and nobody knows everything. I hear people call themselves experts, and I have to laugh. I think, really, you're going to go there. nobody is an expert on everything. You know, we all have had interactions and we're looking at it. What we can do is get the truth. And what you were talking about earlier, Dave, was people have these one-on-one experiences and nobody believes them because there's nothing there to connect with something tangible. However, it's life-changing, okay? That person is never the same. When I first saw my very first UFO, and I saw the one in front of me hovered over the railroad tracks, it stopped my car. There was one that had landed to my right I never saw until the middle of my experience. And I went into that one, this tall white, which blew me away, elevated my body off of the street, moved me in a direction against my will. I had absolutely no way to fight this thing. It had taken me. It had literally total control. And I was so shocked in disbelief and horror that I couldn't fight it. My mind couldn't even register. What the heck? What is this? You know, and if I said, you know, it once, I kept saying, what is happening? You know, I said it 1,000 times because I could not deal with it mentally. I was on overload, overwhelm, shock, the whole enchilada. And I woke up inside of the other craft to see grays and a tall white who spoke to me, but through mental telepathy. I didn't even know about mental telepathy at that time in my life. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't know missing time existed. So when people are having these situations that come upon them, I'm listening. And I'm not just listening with ears. I'm listening with my heart, with my mind, with my soul, and my ears. I'm trying to understand how this took place with that person. Why did it take place? What is being done here? What did this person either need to know or be revealed to? Why did it happen? There is a reason for everything. Otherwise, why is it happening? So we need to take a good look at what's going on here and why. Many of us feel it is intricately a personal experience, and it means something very profound to us. And that, you know, is the plethora, really. It's more of a conundrum, really. It's like, why does this happen to so many different people in so many different ways? So I always have felt we're asking the wrong questions. It's not just about, do we have extraterrestrials? Of course we do. We've known that for generations, eons. It's plastered all over the walls in Egypt. And, you know, I mean, the Mayans and, you know, come on, let's go to the next level. Let's stop playing games. It's like when I see people go out and doing, you know, the ghost haunts. Oh, who am I talking to? Who is this? You know, blah, blah, blah. Come on. You know, it's so much deeper. There's so much more. And we're just scratching the surfaces. So this is what we're doing at IUFOB. We're really examining facts. And you say it's just their experience. Well, that experience is, in fact, a fact because it has changed a life forever. You can't go back to who you were. I am not the girl that went into that craft. And I'm not the girl that came out. I am somebody with knowledge, understanding, experience, a relationship. It's so deep. And I think it's overlooked.
And on that note, I'm going to get you ladies to hold on right there because it's hard to believe we're already through 1 hour here on Spaced Out Radio. In hour number 2, I want to get to some of their best cases that they have covered. This is where we're going to get deep. into the alien UFO story. Mindy Tautfest, Teri from the International UFO Bureau. Go to .com on there. You got the website. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are here. I had you muted.
I saw that. Am I the drama?
You're the drama. You're the drama. I'm gonna put you both in. I'm just gonna put you both in the green room. I'm gonna disappear for a couple minutes. We got about 5.5 minutes. Okay.
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 Can we take
Right.
a quick 5?
Yeah, we got about 5.
Okay. I'm going to brew a cup.
Just put you back there so I can see you, but I'll be right back. All right, I am back. Did my chair move? No. My chair move? Daryl Stanley, welcome to SOR chat and good night. Ashera, welcome to SOR chat. We got about a minute to go here. Let's bring the ladies back in. How good is this show tonight, guys? What do you?
Fun.
Oh, look at that! Look at that lip gloss, everybody! Look at that lip.
Caught in the act.
Don't worry, just big Taylor. All right.
I got my cup of Joe.
I'll tease mine up too a little bit. There we go. Dub, how you doing? Hi there, Kimberly Burgess. Enjoying the snowfall? Hillbilly her, probably the ghost in my studio sits in the chair when I leave. I don't know. I literally have a ghost in this studio. It's kind of cool.
Oh.
I think it's one of my former listeners. But that's just me. Thank you to Raven and Human Carl for the super chats. And here we go, everybody. Here we go, the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. A blue end. A blue end is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. From the International UFO Bureau, we have Mindy Tautfest and Teri Lynge hanging out with us. We're going to get into some stories here. Real encounters that people have had that you two have investigated. Mindy, I know you've looked over hundreds of cases over the years, but I'm just curious for you, is there one or two that stand out that just blow your mind?
Yeah, I had to unmute me. Yeah, well, and I can dig into a couple of different things. A couple of them were when I was with my time with MUFON, and some of them come from the Bureau archives themselves. And I have that up on the website at internationalUFObureau.com, where people can look at some of the top ones. From the Bureau archives, one of the biggest investigations that Hayden did was in conjunction with Brad Steiger, who was his partner at the time. They had a couple of people that would come in and visit with them from time to time, talking about their beliefs that they were extraterrestrials. And Hayden treated them with the utmost respect. On the website, I've released a couple of lie detectors that I don't think have ever been released to the public that he gave these to. And it ended up being that this was Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, who actually ran Heaven's Gate cult.
Right.
Hayden had run into a couple of very strange things that happened in conjunction with them, where one time he said that they came and they were speaking, and he led them out the hallway out to the street, and he turned around and they were just, it appeared that they had disappeared. There was also, they had given him a code that they called it a thought code sequence to send out if he ever wanted to contact them. And he waited 9-10 months before he used that thought code sequence and sent it out telepathically to them. And that night he ended up getting a call from one of the followers of Heaven's Gate. And so there's actually an article on the website that talks about why Hayden Hewes was almost convinced, because he saw some of these strange things that were happening around them. Now, that's not to give any credence to their beliefs that they were preaching the next level above human, and they believed that they needed to shed their shells, their human shells, in order to catch the UFO behind Hale-Bopp. And that's, of course, when we heard about the mass suicide that happened in 97, unfortunately. But several of them, they left different video recordings to their family and loved ones, and they were very excited to go. They fully believed that they were going to the next level. So it was kind of a strange thing that Brad and Hayden actually wrote a book called Inside Heaven's Gates about their time interviewing Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles. They went by the Two or Bo and Peep. They had silly little names, and they would tell people, don't follow us because it's hard. You're going to have to leave everything, and you've got to be there mentally to be able to do what we're planning on doing. And at the time, no one knew that they were leading to such a dark end. But it's kind of interesting to go back through the Bureau archives, and there's a huge, huge file on them because they really liked Hayden and they'd come in and talk with him often. But it was real interesting to see the lie detector and that they actually believed the things that they were saying, no matter how misconstrued or misled they were. So that's, and it's one of those hard things because it's such a dark part of history, especially linking it to the UFO topic, but it's such a big part of the Bureau history that it's something that we can't overlook and just leave out either. There's that. And I had also mentioned the Jimmy Carter report when Jimmy Carter had his sighting on the campaign trail back in, I believe it was 73. 73 is when he filed the report with Hayden, and Hayden had just written to him and said, hey, do you mind filing a report? And Jimmy Carter wrote out everything and mailed it back to him. So that's another part of the archive. The Aurora crash of 1897, there was actually some testing from the well water and some of the scraps and stuff that they came across, and some things that pointed to where the non-human entity might have been buried from that 1897 crash that happened down in Texas. So there's a lot of things that are still needing to be uncovered. A big part of the Bureau archives is letters just from people within the space programs. And here on my wall here, this is a letter from Werner von Braun talking about his beliefs or non-beliefs in UFOs. And so it just kind of spans the plethora of things. So those are the kind of things we have. We have all of that digitized, and now we are pulling the information from those all of the writings from Hayden and everything. We're working on making an actual Hayden bot where people will be able to go on the website and ask him things based on his writings, and the bot will be able to answer him or answer whoever's inquiring. We're also looking at integrating AI into a database with all of these archives, with the stories from the Native Americans, and with other people that we're partnering with to bring in all of these reports and then pull out commonalities. That's one of the main things we're looking at, is we're looking beyond disclosure, and we're looking at what does the evidence tell us? What can we learn? What has changed over time? You know, if there's things within some of the Native traditions, how were the craft presenting back then compared to what they're looking like now? Is there any change in the Schumann resonance whenever there's mass sightings? Are there earthquakes? What kind of things can we pull from the experiencer account and start to form informed conclusions about what has been transpiring? Who is responsible for this type of craft? Where are they coming from? We know things are coming from the ocean within inner Earth. outer space, interdimensional. We have so many different types of craft that are showing up and different types of intelligences that are visiting our planet. It's time for us to start kind of categorizing and understanding, okay, well, this is the tall white. Are they a militant race? Do they mean us harm? Or are they here to help us evolve? We have to start looking at these things. It is a national security issue, but we have to start listening to our experiencers to understand what the commonalities are between, and people are not going to open up if they don't feel secure. So we're bringing in all of our archives that we have from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. We're bringing in the ancient stories, and we're bringing in the modern stories. And so we aren't looking to be like a competitor for MUFON. We're looking beyond that and asking different questions. We're approaching it from a different way. And I think that that's really what we need. We have this technology now that is incredible. And I know AI isn't perfect, but it can scan through all of that information. And based on the queries that you feed into it, you can come up with the results that you're looking for. So that's what we're looking to do, is to bring together all of these encounters, see what we can learn from them, what kind of statistics we can pull from it, and then provide that to the public, because that's what people want to know. What the hell's going on? And hopefully we can become someone that people can trust with our transparency and with our answers. And nothing's ever going to be 100% with AI, but at least we can start that conversation, start digging into it, and trying to utilize that new technology on very old encounters. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Now, you had asked, let me switch gears. You had asked about my personal investigations. There are two that are very big, very near and dear to my heart. One, before we had come on here, you were speaking about cattle mutilations up there in Canada. Well, there was one here a couple of years ago in Oklahoma, down in southern Oklahoma, right along the Red River, down at the Texas border. And it was in a small town where there was a report from the 60s. And I'm blanking on the name of the town right now. But there was a cattle mutilation, and the rancher called us immediately when she discovered her cow had been, found it dead. And we got out there within about 2 hours and were able to take samples from it and, look it over, run a black light over it, see if there was any of that fluorescent powder that sometimes is left behind. And MUFON was able to run samples through the lab and found out that it had a laser cut. It had actually charred along the edges where it had been cut. It was a cookie cutter kind of incision around the jaw area. The eye was missing, the rectum had been cored out. And the next day, she went out to check the cow again. It rained, so they weren't able to bury it. When they went back out, they discovered that the udders had been removed that next night. And so I had them set up a night cam, trail cam out to see what they would catch. And that night there was almost like a mist or a fog that settled right over that one cow. And that was kind of the last of it. And we were still waiting on stuff to come back from the MUFON lab. And I don't know if I'll ever get the answers from it, but it was a great investigation. The other one, and what led me to the International UFO Bureau in the first place, was the schoolyard encounter that happened down in southeastern Oklahoma. It was back in 1975, and there was a family that had about 11 kids. It was the Buchanan family, and this is the story that I actually shared on Ancient Aliens. The Buchanan family, they were missionaries, and they took in kids from troubled homes. And so there were a couple of different sibling groups that lived there. And one day they went out and they were playing outside, and they saw an object floating off in the distance. And over the course of about an hour, it slowly came forward. And all the kids were out there playing. They were all paying attention to it. And as it got closer and closer, they saw the flashing lights around the perimeter of it. And it was a giant silver saucer that was just hovering silently. And it ended up being right over that schoolhouse where they lived. And this was on about a 6,000 acre farm. So they had a lot of land out there in southeastern Oklahoma. So they watched it, and as it came closer right over them, they yelled for the adults to come out. And at the time, it was the Buchanan mother and one teacher, and the teacher was only 18 years old, but she was the teacher. She was the other adult there. And they stood there and watched it and were just amazed. The oldest boy that lived there, he was a teenager. His name was Clifton Buchanan. He grabbed a shotgun and climbed up on top of the schoolhouse and aimed it at the saucer because he was scared. He was off in the distance. The women and children were between him and the craft, and he started aiming the rifle at the craft. And when he did, it lifted up, and they said it flipped on its side and it took off. And it looked like it landed about a mile away there by their sawmill. And so that night they went in. The teacher, I actually spoke with her. She's since become a doctor, well-respected woman. And she said that the kids were terrified, hiding under the beds. They were talking about shapeshifters in the window that they were seeing. The oldest boy was nailing shut the doors and windows and boarding them up and standing guard all night with that shotgun. So that next morning they get up and they actually packed sack lunches and took a field trip over to the sawmill to see if they could find any evidence of that UFO. And they didn't find anything. But when they came back, they ended up finding, they were going to get stuff out for lunch. They found out that the meat locker had been completely emptied during the night, and this was processed beef. There were cattle there at the ranch, but the processed beef went missing. And so when Mr. Buchanan had returned a couple of days later from a business trip, he took all of the meat. It had disappeared that night. It reappeared the next day back in the freezer, and so he took that frozen meat out and burned it all. And they said they remember just eating oatmeal for several days because all of the meat had been burned because he didn't trust it after the UFO sighting and it going missing and then reappearing. He didn't trust it. And so that was kind of the end of that. But a few years after that, the school was shut down, and Clifton, the oldest boy, had stayed to take care of the ranch. And he was found murdered. Shot twice in the back of the head, execution style, there at the ranch. And that murder has never been solved. And I've actually worked with someone within the national news community that actually came out here last year and was working on a 10-part series and is really digging into the murder side of it. But when we were out there, we were able to actually locate his pickup truck. He was said to have been in a pickup truck and been chased. And the truck had been sitting there for the last 30, 40 years, pushed off the side of the road. And we were able to actually locate it and get in touch with Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation and give them that information. But subsequently, it went missing. So it's kind of, we don't know. But I know that the reporter that was working on it has found some important leads, and hopefully we'll get closure for the Buchanan family. So that was probably the number one that I investigated.
Yeah.
When you investigate a case like that, how is it hard not to get emotionally involved? Like, how do you stay professional on it when you're dealing with real feelings of the unknown? We got about 5 minutes to go before we go to break.
Okay, I'll talk quickly then. You don't. The Buchanan family is near and dear to my heart these days, and I've stayed in contact with them, and I thank them profusely for sharing their story. And they've been very helpful on the back end with the investigation of their brother's murder. And they never thought that it would ever be brought back, that anyone would ever care or it would ever be solved. But working together, we've been able to come up with some leads. And when we were out there, we were actually chased off of one of the properties with men jumping out of the car. I mean, it was a black Mack pickup truck that busted out of the woods and chased us for several miles, yelling at us. So it was quite interesting. I'm pretty sure we had some guns trained on us while we were there. And people don't like you poking around that area. You don't just show up to southeastern Oklahoma and not know anybody, and especially don't go out there asking about UFOs and past murders and stuff. But I have some ties to the community, to that area, so I felt safe enough. But it can be dangerous, especially whenever you're getting into stories that where people have met not good ends. So we don't know if Clifton's murder was tied into the UFO sighting or not. He was the only one that was left there at the ranch. But in working closely with families like that, we brought together the old the police chief from that town with the Buchanan family, and they were able to put some dots together. So it still just remains an open case that's still being investigated, and the UFO sightings continue to this day. So there's a lot going on over in that area.
No kidding. 2 minutes to go, Teri. I want to just ask you a quick question here. What do you think, or where do you think these UFOs are coming from? Are we being visited from other planets? Are we seeing time travelers?
Well, I don't know about time travelers. Some people do have that as an opinion. I can't speak about something I don't know about, and I won't, speculate. So if I don't have any understanding about it, I just have to back out of that. But I personally have had some CE5 experiences, and I was directed to Orion's belt, and everybody was looking in one direction, and I heard turn around, and I turned around, and as I did, there was a craft that came in and literally came in, stopped dead, dropped way down, went way back up, dropped back down again, almost like it made an N, a backwards N in the sky, and then shot off right into where Orion's belt was. So I do know that they're coming from that area of the galaxy. I don't know other areas because personally, I've never discussed that with extraterrestrials. They've spoken to me, they've given me information, but not where they're from. But when we come back from the break, I would like to share something that I experienced with a good friend of mine, Kathy Marden and Denise Stoner. They were really great friends of mine I was working with years ago. And Dan Borneman's wife, Dan is on the board, and his wife, Rebecca. And it's just really very interesting in reference to vibrations and tones and different things that people experience while they're having extraterrestrial interactions. So
it is an amazing feat what we are trying to accomplish here by bringing these stories to light. And I know the nuts and bolts people are out there, and they have their focus on what these craft are, the science of it all. I still like real people, real stories, because without them, we have no leads. We have no understanding of what this phenomena is all about. Mindy Tautfest, Teri Lane Kell, we have until the top of the hour on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio.
with your host, Dave Scott. All right, we're clear.
Okay. Yeah, some really interesting stuff has happened. I believe it's a collective, what's going on. And we are finding out so much about what is truly happening at this point. And I'm just thrilled to be part of it. Thrilled, because this is like the two big questions. Is there a God, and are we alone? Those are the two big questions about life, and where are we going, and knowing that we're always moving forward and we don't die. We just take the carcass off and move into the next realm, because we're spirit beings and spirits don't die. So they just live on in different phases of life. It's so interesting. It's just, oh my gosh, I could talk about it all night, literally. I mean, that's how into it I really am. I'm connected with it. And I want to know as much as I can know this side of the veil, because we're all walking each other home, I want to understand it and help others understand.
I got screwed up into the whole UFO thing in April of 2014 when we used to hang out at friend's house. They had like a 10-acre mini land. Here for a second, Mindy, you're getting that feedback. But we had this. They had this ranch, and one night, I'm going to keep the story short. One night, I went over there after work because my wife was already there with our boy, and they were having tea, and so I met them there after work, and I thought I was having a migraine, but it was actually shapes pulsating in my head. And immediately I knew I had to go outside. Like I was having a panic attack that I needed to go into their back field. And that's where I kind of said, I went out there with one other person who I no longer any sort of communication with. But it was, I literally said, out of God's peace, love, and light, you called me outside. Can you show me where you are? And I'm looking through the clouds, through the haze, because it was a dark, misty night. And about 150 yards away from me, as soon as I said that, a UFO turned its lights on for me on the ground.
What type of craft?
It was about a 20 to 30 foot tall, really beautiful blue cylinder. It was standing vertically. The white light that I originally saw was emanating from it, and it had this black cloud that was rotating counterclockwise from the bottom, and then it'd go up to about halfway and then work its way back down. And that happened 3 times.
Dave, is this better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll rock these for the last 30 minutes then.
The hair still looks fantastic though.
Hey, thank you. I probably need some bangs out here. So I'm trying not to look all raggedy at 12:30 in the morning.
You look stunning.
Hey, thanks.
Stunning. But then 5 days after that, I went back to the farm for the first time, met a lady named Samantha Mowat, who in my opinion is the best kept secret in ufology. And she goes, let's go into the forest. And at 2:00 in the afternoon, she stops me and she goes, I want you to look that way, Dave. And she points north. She goes, I want you to tell me what you see. So I did. And about 200 feet from us, there was a 10 to 12 foot extraterrestrial standing there, staring back at us. And all I could say is, what the F is that? What the F is that? And it called us over. I didn't see the second guy. I only saw the first guy, but it called us over. And I begged her not to go. She stayed with me. And that was my start.
Yeah.
Was
Wow.
right there in front of me. Give
I'd
me a
love
second.
to meet that girl.
Oh, she's amazing. Give me a couple seconds here because we're about to come back. Hi, Art Fraser on LinkedIn. Thanks for tuning us on in. Thurston Howell III, nice to see you. Caged on the inside. Welcome to SOR chat for the first time. And we are caught up there. Thank you to Raven and Human Carl for the super chats. We really do appreciate it. We're going to get going right now. Here we go, the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight from the International UFO Bureau. We have Mindy Tautfest, Teri, Lynge here sharing their experiences. Mindy, we got yours in the last half hour. Let's get to Teri. What's a case that really stands out to you, Teri?
Okay, well, like I was saying earlier, I had a couple of friends who had been hanging out together, Kathy Martin, Denise Stoner, and they were at Kathy's house, which was about 30 minutes from my house in Lakeland, Florida. And they were having these crafts show up over the water, over her back area. Her house was on a lake, and sometimes you could see them and other times you couldn't. And they had asked me to come over and see what I saw because they were feeling these vibrations and they wanted to document what they were seeing. So I went over and I took a friend of mine, Rebecca Renfro Borneman, and we were all sitting on Kathy's back deck overlooking the water. And all of a sudden, all at once, all four of us, four women, Denise, myself, Kathy, and Rebecca, all felt like we were looking at something over the water. We couldn't really see it, but we could feel it. And that was bizarre. I'd never experienced anything like that. You know, usually if you see something, you see something. And all of a sudden, each one of us went, I can hear a tone. And then Kathy said, I can hear a tone. Rebecca said, I can hear a tone. And Denise said, oh my gosh, we all got a different vibrational tone. And Rebecca happens to be a pianist, a very good pianist. And so she understands music. It's all Chinese to me. And so she said, can you hum the tone you're hearing? And I said, yes, I can. So I did. And she told me what it was. And then she said, Kathy, can you? And so forth and so on. And what was bizarre, I mean, just bizarre, she wrote it all down and then she hummed it. And she goes, oh my God, this is gorgeous. This is beautiful. And she actually wrote a song, and it was called, what was that called? It was called The Universe is Calling You. And she wrote this song, and it was just absolutely gorgeous, but she kept it within those four tones. And Mark D'Antonio, who is a good friend of all of ours, used it for his presentations when he would do, his astronomy speakings and things like that. He would play this, and it became this really beloved tune and song, The Universe is Calling. I went into the studio about a year or two later and recorded it. And so did Rebecca. She recorded it. So we have 2 recordings of this song. And it was just bizarre how that came to be. And that was just going out, doing an investigation on something that could be felt but not seen. And then vibrations happened. So it's so bizarre how crafts can interact with us, how these things can happen. And then look at what became of it, because somebody was, inept with understanding the musical vibrations of it all. It was just astounding to me. Another thing that happened was one of the best cases actually was one that happened to my son and I coming home from a date night, going over the Howard Franklin Bridge from Tampa to St. Petersburg, Florida. I saw 3 lights in the sky. And I said to my son, humor me, but keep an eye on those 3 lights. And he goes, oh yeah, Mom, I bet they're UFOs. And I said, just humor me. I was driving 65 miles an hour going over the Howard Franklin Bridge, and they were just hovered over the water. Now, Central Command is right there in Tampa, and it's also known as MacDill Air Force Base. And so it was kind of bizarre that I was seeing these 3 lights that spoke to me, literally. And the minute I just glanced over, and immediately I knew these aren't 3 lights. This is a craft. And I'm telling him to watch it while I'm driving. And the bridge was loaded with cars. And so I couldn't slow down. I couldn't pull over. I couldn't do anything to manipulate where I was. And I was in fast lane. So as I was going over to the St. Pete side, coming home from Tampa, these 3 lights stopped and then started to move over towards the St. Pete area. And they hovered over Sawgrass Lake in St. Pete. So as we're coming across this bridge, they're hovered over here. First they're on my left, now they're on my right. And this 3 lights morphed as we got right up next to it, as the car was coming in on the roadway, still doing 65 miles an hour. It morphed into a black triangle loaded with lights all the way around. And that shocked me. And I was thinking, oh my God, people are going to see this. They're going to start slamming on their brakes. We are going to have an accident. And I kept telling my son, please be careful. Get in the car. He was hanging out of the car trying to take a picture. And we were going so fast and coming upon it so quickly, he couldn't get the picture. But this thing was hovered over the trees, not even moving a leaf on the tree. Massive triangle. And then it lowered itself down into Sawgrass Lake. This was a huge sighting. Now, let me fast forward to talking with Lou Elizondo one night at a hotel where we were all staying at a conference. I was telling Lou about it, and he said, oh my gosh, Teri, I want to validate that for you. He said, I want to tell you that that craft has been seen. It's rare. However, it's noted. We know about it. It does morph. It's 3 lights, and then it morphs. I never knew before that. This happened in 2012. I never knew that an extraterrestrial craft could actually morph. So I'm now taking this to another level. We're not just seeing crafts. we're seeing crafts that morph, that change, and, shapeshift literally. So this was taking it to a whole nother level for me. And I'm really glad that that happened. It made a believer out of my son instantly. And it gave me information I hadn't had before, never even heard before, never even conceived before, because I didn't know that that kind of thing could happen. And yet it was intelligently moving. So in this force of the change, there were beings in that craft that were causing this to happen. And they also morphed somehow through that. So that's taking this conversation to another level. And we're not just dealing with a little round disc or a little flying saucer. Now we're talking about 3 odd lights and them morphing into a black triangle. That is not ours. We can say that we can make, the same type of crafts as what we see out there. Oh, no, we can't. They cannot function the way an extraterrestrial craft can function. And they can't move with the speed, not even close to the speed that these extraterrestrial craft move at. They're very unique. They're very different. They're otherworldly. They are not ours. Sure, we can create some of these things. However, they're ours, not theirs. So, that's another conversation to open up and look at. We're dealing with something that is so completely otherworldly and above what we can do. Elon Musk and all his money can't do what one of them can do, and it's crazy to think that we could ever, in my lifetime anyway, bring it to that level of understanding. Right. It's just not going to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen.
Are the answers out there, Mindy? Is there anybody who knows what is truly going on? I mean, we have a bunch of research groups out there. We have the government withholding information. Is there somebody out there who knows the truth?
Well, I believe that there probably is. There's, but they're not sharing their information with us. These are, very top secret projects that are even being withheld from those within our government. So I don't think that we're going to get answers from them. But I do think that with what we're trying to do through the Bureau is sift through and get rid of the ones that are misidentifications, be able to flag those immediately by doing certain checks. Are there SpaceX launches or satellites or meteors that were reported, flight radar, all of the different things. We can call that information from different websites to automatically apply that to the cases within our database. So we don't bring in that extra information that is not applicable to what we're trying to understand. Mm-hmm. I think that it's through efforts through like what we're trying to do, weed out the ones that are misidentifications and learn what we can from the true encounters. And we know that there's a consciousness, like Teri was speaking about how these things are able to morph and stuff. There's a consciousness connection to that. We've heard for years that, if the craft in Roswell was a true craft, there were stories that it was controlled by consciousness. And we know that the government's been looking into that since the 70s. I'm sure you've heard of the Stargate project and analysis and assessment of the gateway. That was where they were trying to connect consciousness with non-human intelligences over in the absolute, which I believe is the void where I was. And I think that, Teri leans more towards maybe an outer space perspective. I tend to lean more towards the interdimensional because of that. That's my encounter. but I don't close my mind to any of these. I know that all of these different things are possible. But as far as the government, we need to move past the discussion of disclosure.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get the answers that we want. It's up to us citizens coming together, working together, sharing information together. And that's why I'm so proud and so excited about what the Bureau is doing, because so many are coming together, because there are independent researchers who have zeroed in on one aspect of the phenomena, and they're bringing that in, and we're able to put that in with the rest of the data and really start getting a much fuller picture of what has been happening. And I think that that's where the answers are going to lie, is with independent people like ourselves coming together. This disclosure thing, we already know that these entities exist. We already know that we're being visited. It's time to start looking at how we can better understand those encounters and better support the people that are having those encounters. That's not going to come from the government, and it's not going to come from disclosure. So we're really kind of just looking beyond it, because I think that those kind of conversations are going to be staying in the skiffs, and us normal people, we're never going to hear about it.
But here's the other thing. We're sending up rockets with all this propulsion, correct? Well, when we see these extraterrestrial crafts, they don't have anything like that. They don't have all this stuff, blowing out the back of them. And their type of propulsion is completely different. What I know is that it's quiet, it's clean, and it's fast. And they are involved bodily with their craft, like it's an extension of their being. And so they can maneuver them. I believe it's mind controlled. I believe it's purposeful that way. I don't think that we have the technology. And I'd love to have a conversation with Elon Musk and talk to him about this. I'm looking forward to that day, because we're going in the wrong direction, guys. What we're doing is like playing pickup sticks back in the 40s and 50s compared to what is actually happening today. And we're going in the wrong direction. There's so much that we're missing, and they've already accomplished this. It's already happening, and it could be an interdimensional thing. It may be all of the above. Maybe we're both right. It just depends on which craft, what types of extraterrestrials we're talking about. I have seen 2 different forms of reptilians that I've been involved with. I've seen the grays and the tall whites, and then just a plethora of other types of beings that are not listed as extraterrestrial, but so many. And so what is happening out there? There are hybrids. I believe I'm very close. I believe a lot of us are, and we're the ones that need to be having the conversations. We need the think tanks. We need to come together and really take a good hard look at this, where we're focused on it. And we can start putting the pieces to the puzzle together. The rockets are not the way. And I don't know why people think that we're going to go to the moon, or we're going to go to Mars or anything on these vehicles and get back safely. It's just not going to happen. So we need to take a good look at where we're going. And that's what we're doing at IUFOB. And I would encourage anybody that really wants to be a part of this conversation to join us, subscribe, come on. IUFOB.com, International UFO Bureau.com. And let's have this conversation together. There's a lot to learn, but we have to be open-minded and think outside of the box.
And I think that's the big thing, too, that we have to do is think outside the box, because I think so many times we've seen everything get paralleled into its own lane.
Right.
UFO world is parallel with ghosts, parallel with cryptid world, out of body experiences, astral travel. Everybody seems to have them in singular lanes when the phenomena just closes everything together. You guys are literally not just studying UFOs with IUFOB, you're actually going after what is the phenomena.
Right. Exactly. And we're not stopping. Okay. We're going to get this done. It is going to happen, and we are going to know. I created a little saying a long time ago. I know. And I actually do know an awful lot. I've had a lot of experiences, and every experience we have brings us closer to knowledge and understanding. And it's about putting it together. And that takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of letting your mind go to places that's almost frightening. You've got to open your mind and expand your thinking. You can't just stay within the limits of what other people are doing. You've got to go out there on your own. And, I'm asking God all the time, help us understand, show us. And I believe that answer is going to come. I also believe it's going to come soon because, we all know that these are very different times we're living in, troubled times to a degree, last days, they're saying, lots to learn, lots to know before we exit the planet. And I do believe we all eventually will. It's kind of profoundly stated in the Torah, in the Bible, in the Quran, in these books that have lasted eons of time. The Bible is still the #1 bestseller on the planet. Can you believe that after thousands upon thousands of years? So, I'm going in that direction. And I'm bringing that into the equation and the conversation because it all ties in. We can't look in the wrong places for the right answers. We've got to go where men haven't gone before, like they used to say in Star Trek, going where no one has ever gone before. Well, that's where we're headed. And I'm happy to be going there.
I think it's great. We got 2 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to both of you. I want to bring you back on. I want to get into like the species of ETs you were dealing with and all of that. In a couple months, I'd like to bring you back on just to have that chat, if you don't mind. And yes, I am putting you on the spot because, that's what I do here on the record. But, I really do appreciate you guys coming on in. Mindy, we got 90 seconds. Do me a favor. Tell everybody about where they can send reports to or get in contact with you guys if they finally feel comfortable that their information isn't going to a government agency, their information isn't sold off to the highest bidder, aka Robert Bigelow, or any type of situation.
Yeah. Don't go there. Oh my gosh.
Well, to put it quickly, right now, this is only a month and a half in the making that we have been actually working on resurrecting this, and it has come together so quickly with the support of the community. Right now, we are working on building that database. We have all the information to feed into it. We have the wireframe for it. We have the wireframe for integrating the AI and for all the things that we're wanting to do. Right now, it's a matter of getting that database put together. So we're looking for financial support. There's a donate button on our website if people feel so inclined, or just sign up and subscribe so that we know that you're interested in what we're doing. But it'll take some months to get there, but we will be there. And we have some wonderful people already committed to this project that I'm so happy to be working with. And we will be there to support experiencers in the very near future. And I couldn't be more proud.
Love it. Love it. Mindy Tautfest, Teri Lynge from International UFO Bureau. Throw a .com on there. You got their website. Coming up next, we have Swamp Dweller. Then little Timmy James will be here for the UFO Report. This is Spaced Out Radio. Hour 3 is next. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. That was fun.
That went by quick. Thank you so much, Dave.
It did. My
Honestly,
goodness.
I love what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. We're so inspired by just the community has been outstanding. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we'll get there. We got all the stuff ready. We're just waiting for IT to put it together and we'll be up and going. So
Well, when it is up and going, I honestly do want to bring you back in a couple months, because I think going over like a lot of the species and different stories you guys have had, I think that'd be wonderful. This was just way too short for what I wanted to get into, and I'd love the honor of having you guys back on again.
Well, thank you so much, Dave. I'm so glad that you reached out and we were able to connect,
Absolutely.
Yeah, big hugs to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys need any help with anything, just reach out. We'll help you out. We got good people here.
Awesome. Well, you
Yeah.
got my number, and thank you so much to everybody in chat. I've been like watching everything. I'm loving your listeners. So yeah, thank you guys.
All right. Take care, guys.
I can't wait to answer that question there. What do the reptile species, the two, look like? We'll talk about that the next time we get together.
Yes. I will get in touch with you about that in the next couple of days.
Okay, sounds good, Dave. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye. All right. I'll be right back, everybody. right, I'm back. Big thank you tonight to Caged, Human Carl, and Raven for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. Timmy Swamp Dweller is about 2 minutes, 15 seconds. All right. And here we go. Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Swamp Dweller coming up momentarily. But first, I want to say hello to all of our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. A Bluent. A Bluent is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night. Right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I know the whole clown thing had its time, but I have a story that I thought would be worth telling you. A few years back, in a small town in Michigan, back when the whole killer clown epidemic was going around, I used to think of it as pretty stupid, and thought that no one would actually, have any real encounters. I thought maybe nobody died, and nobody was actually being stalked. But this story that I'm about to tell you takes place back in the summer and fall of 2017, maybe around the start of August. The summer heat just started to cool down, but the clown story started to rise to what a lot of people were talking about. I never really thought much about it, because the only thing I really ever got scared of was not knowing what is next in life. Occasionally, I would hear rustling in the woods located behind my house when I was either taking out the trash or coming home from sports practice. But one day, I looked out my window and saw a brightly colored man or woman in a clown costume. And at this time, I was home alone, and I could in fact not have any chance of standing up for myself if this clown would have come to my house and tried to get in. At this time, I had no phone, and the only way I had to pretty much get in contact with people were to run to the neighbor's house. I was forced to go out of my room because I had to use the bathroom really badly. But when I came back to watch my spot, the clown was gone. Fast forward about 2 to 3 months, I was home alone once more and looked out of my living room window and saw a man peering into my house. So I looked up in shock, and right as he did, me and the man made eye contact. He then smiled with the worst smile I have ever seen in my life. He then flashed the most yellow teeth that I've ever seen, right when I was going to do something, and I passed out from fear. Well, that's what my parents told me, because they got home and picked me up off the ground. To this day, I can still see that clown's yellow teeth, and every time I just want to throw up. I don't go near those woods because of how many weird things I've seen, but these clowns that seemingly like to roam around them are the creepiest I've seen yet.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube and type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and you can get more stories. He's got thousands of them, and that's why we love him. Right here on Spaced Out Radio to kick off hour number 3. It's a UFO report time.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
All right, little Timmy James, thank you for popping on in. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. And you, sir?
I am doing great.
Excellent.
I am doing absolutely fantastic. And I get to sleep in the morning.
I heard. I
Yeah.
heard a little bird told me that you got the day off tomorrow.
I do. Oh, I need it. Oh, I need it. And I'm so looking forward to it.
Good
You know,
for
the
you,
one-
man.
I will say this, because
Mm.
for people who don't know, I work a daytime job as well in the finance industry. And as much as I love helping people, I'm a night owl, man. I'm a night owl, and that's why I love nighttime radio, being live with people who are just, whether they're driving down the road in their semi truck or sitting at home in bed, lying down, just want to hear something real cool while they're, playing games on their phone or whatever it may be. I love being that dude that tunes in, so it's just nice. It's nice to be able to have a day where I could concentrate on myself and then get ready to do another show because, we just don't stop. We don't stop. We keep going.
Absolutely.
So,
So,
are you still anticipating when JFK, RFK, and MLK will be released?
actually, it's funny because I was going to mention that. When I was going through it today, and obviously we all heard the news, I'm sure that the president has signed the order to disclose all the documentation on the Kennedys and on Martin Luther King. But reading through the fine print in the actual order that he signed, I think it's got 15 days for it to be reviewed by a committee, like after the order's signed. Now it's 15 days before that has to take place. And I think after that takes place, I think they have 45 days or something before it goes through another committee for a second run through, and then everything gets thrown, to the public. So you're looking at probably 2 months max, I would suspect, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, the big question is, it's one thing to release the documents.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing when we actually get to see them because of how much could be redacted on them.
True.
And one of the big questions and why does this tie into ufology
Mm-hmm.
is because Chuck Schumer actually made a comment.
Yes, he did.
He's a Democrat, but he's been extremely bipartisan when it comes to the UFO story, trying to get funding for the UFO world, except the Gang of Eight,
Mm-hmm.
which seems to be falling by the wayside now from the old boys club.
Yep.
They weren't allowing it. They weren't allowing it to happen. So Schumer actually came out and said, well, are the UFOs next?
Yeah.
That excited me.
Yeah.
It excited me, man.
Yeah. I mean, he even got, I guess, Matt from Askapol tried to get a comment out of him, and he wasn't talking. Schumer wasn't talking. He made a statement, and that was it. He was like, okay, what's next? UFOs are next, right? Like, yeah, he's been barking that all day. And it was kind of like, all right, like hopefully this ball gets rolling too. Signing orders like crazy, you just never know what he's gonna do. The new president is what I'm talking about. But yeah, who knows what he's gonna do? I'm crossing fingers that he talked about it before his election, and that was one of the platforms that he kind of stood on at the the tail end. I would recall, if I recall correctly. But yeah, let's get that ball rolling. That'd be great.
Well, I think it's going to.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, once again, I want to preface to our audience, releasing it is one thing. What they're going to show us is another. And it's funny because Mike Pompeo,
Mm-hmm.
who had all his security clearances taken away by Trump.
Yeah.
He literally came out and said, we don't need to release them. There's nothing there. He goes, I've seen the documents and people are going to be disappointed because they think there's this giant conspiracy around it. Well, you've led us on for 62 years.
Yeah.
Right?
And
you've led us on. So what else are we supposed to think?
well, exactly. And the thing is I mean, sorry, Mr. Pompeo, but I don't I don't think that you should be deciding for the rest of the citizens out there and the rest of the world, what's important and what's not important and what's going to be disappointing and what's, like, put it out there and let the people decide. I'm sure that some people will be like, oh yeah, and some people will get, glean some information from it. And if there's anything pertinent in there, well, then he was wrong. So just shush. and put it out. Never mind your narrative and your prep. Just shut up.
Right. Well, we're going to see what happens.
Yeah,
we are
for
going
sure.
to see what happens, and it's very interesting to see how this is going to play out with the UFO side. As I said,
Yeah.
The one thing that we do know,
Mhm.
and it's funny because before the show, I actually saw a clip from Kash Patel, who said he has seen the JFK files.
Okay.
He wants them released. He said, but he had also seen the missing 7 pages of the report of 9/11.
Mm.
And he was saying that's the one that really needs to come out.
Yeah.
He goes, the American public is going to be shocked if that comes out. And he goes, I'm pushing for it to come out. And Patel has also been read in on the UFO side. So we have all of these big players, including Donald Trump Jr.,
Mhm.
who are all pro UFO people. They're not UAP people, they're
No.
UFO people.
Yeah.
And they want this story to come out.
Mhm.
But I do understand, and this is no offense to those who lived through the JFK assassination, the RFK assassination, the Martin Luther King assassination. Those are horrible, horrible events. But this event is with UFOs
Mhm.
is going to strike everybody on this planet.
No question.
Not just the fact that we may not be alone, but we may have the technology. And if we start finding out that we have the technology and we are using that for war and evil rather than for the betterment of humanity, it could literally cause some sort of revolt,
Yeah.
not just in the United States, around the world.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there's a lot more to lose than to gain with the UFO releasing any type of disclosure. What's your
Right.
thought?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, sound bites going around. I mean, Burchett jumped in today or in the last couple of days, and I like him and a little bit pessimistic, but he these people, he said, you know what, these people all want to talk and whatever, and he says, just keep an eye on your government because some of these people might end up again unalive, right? Like it's I'm I'm not skeptical, but yeah, I'm curious as to what's going on, in the background. I don't know, like I'm sure everybody else may be too, but I'm wondering what's churning back there because, like you said, the Trumps are into it, everybody's into it, and even one of my stories that I'll bring up right now is John Ratcliffe. He was sworn in today as the 25th director of the CIA. He's the first person ever to serve both director and of the CIA and the director of the National Intelligence Agency, having previously been confirmed as DNI during Trump's last administration. He also served as a member of the Congress and the House of Representatives, and purportedly is a huge UFO proponent, right? So he ran off on this little bit of a tangent today, and I thought it was kind of good, but yeah, I'll let everybody kind of come to their own conclusion at the end of this. So he goes on and he says the number of sightings, they're far greater than have been publicly disclosed before. I think there's been some leaking that there may be as many as 1,000. I'm not going to dispute that number, but what's more important is that the number of sightings and recordings that have been picked up by what we call multiple sensors, that is visual, radar, IRS, and satellite. And when you have multiple sensors under conditions where we see UFOs, it explains away a lot of the things like visual disturbances of things like that. When it comes to national security, ego can't be involved. If there's something out there that's bigger or faster and stronger, we've really got to answer that question. And so having a discussion about it is going to be a good thing. Frankly, there are a lot of more sightings than have been made public. Some of those have been declassified. When we talk about sightings, we're talking about objects that have been seen by Navy or Air Force pilots or have been picked up by satellite imagery that, frankly, engage in actions that are difficult to explain, that movements that are hard to replicate, that we don't have the technology for, or traveling at speeds that exceed the sound barrier without a sonic boom. So in short, things that we are observing that are difficult to explain, and so actually quite a few of those. And I think that information is being gathered and will be put out in a way that the American people can see. We always, when we see these things, we always look for plausible explanations. Weather can cause disturbances, visual disturbances. Sometimes we wonder whether or not our adversaries have technologies that are a little bit better further down the road than we thought or that we realize. But there are instances where we don't have good explanations for some of the things that we've seen. And when the information becomes declassified, I'll be able to talk a little bit more about that. Obviously, there's a lot of documentation out there of different things that I think the American people deserve to know about. We need to restore confidence in our institutions. I also think transparency and some truth-telling and treating us like adults and citizens. Our leaders need to remember that we are citizens. Our leaders need to remember that we, the citizens, are in charge of our government as opposed to being servants. So the interviewer, this is the end of it, and the interviewer says to him, so John, then treat us like an adult here. You've seen the intel. Are the aliens real? John's answer, well, I can't talk to you about that, any potential alien life. So I'll just leave it at that. So it's like, you just did this whole spiel on disclosure and the government and, all that sort of stuff. And then at the last statement is, well, I can't really say anything. So I was like, hopefully this is not the flavor that we're going to see with this new administration and the new people coming into positions of power. I'm really hoping that there is a ball that's rolling, and like I say, I'm sure everybody else does. Let's, we're rolling it down the hill, not pushing it up the hill.
The fact is, the doors are opening.
Mm-hmm.
How far the doors open is another story. But before we were looking at, in the seams to try and find that light behind the door, and now the door is open. It's open a crack, and I just hope that it continues to open.
Yeah. And I mean, you staying with that metaphor, there seems to be a lot more people waiting to pull that door open than I've seen previously, and that's a good thing. Now, whether or not, again, as always, we'll have to wait and see what transpires. But crossing our fingers, this new group seems to be motivated enough, and I hope it's just not a bunch of smoke being blown up our derrieres here. I'm really hoping that, that the door opens and we do get to see some more stuff and put some puzzle pieces together.
What else you got for us? We got about 4.5 minutes.
4.5 minutes. So I will go over today in history. This was kind of cool. So this took place in 1988, January. So Faye Knowles and her 3 sons, Patrick, Sean, and Wayne, are en route along the Eyre Highway and from Perth, Western Australia, to Melbourne by car when they observe a bright egg-shaped object ahead of them on the road near Mundrabilla, Western Australia. Sean is driving and has to swerve to miss the object. The egg-shaped object then begins to follow their station wagon. At some point, Sean does a U-turn to approach the object, but soon goes back to driving eastward. The family becomes disoriented, and the sequences of events is difficult to reconstruct. They roll down the windows, and a grayish-black mist enters the car. Faye reaches out the window to touch the roof and feels something warm, soft, and rubbery that covers her hand in black dust. They hear a loud thud on the roof and come to believe that the object has lifted their car off the road. They are let down suddenly, and the right rear tire blows out. A truck driver named Graham is driving ahead of the Knowles, and he sees a bright light in his rearview mirror for about 5 minutes. Shortly after, he pulls over into Montrabilla. The Knowles family arrives in a state of disorientation. He inspects the damaged tire, sees dents in the roof, and smells something burnt. Henley and another trucker drive back to the scene and find skid marks and footprints in the afternoon. The family report to the police, who note their distress and the dents in the roof. Samples of the black dust are collected for forensic analysis, and the police tests are never done. But at least half of the material is obtained by ufologist Keith Basterfield and Ray Brook, who take it to the laboratory. The analysis reveals ordinary materials, sodium chloride, and other chemicals. The 7 networks pay the Australian Mineral Development Laboratories to test the vehicle for radioactivity, but there is none above background. Amdel states that the car tire has failed due to being underinflated, and the dust smell and smoke is due to the blowout. Another set of samples is taken to the car from the cars taken to Victoria UFO Research Society and sent to 2 different labs, again with commonplace results. However, one analysis by Richard Haynes in the U.S. concludes that the interior dust is different from the exterior, which contains a possible trace of astatine, a radioactive chemical element, which explains why Faye's hand has become red and swollen in the days after the event.
I love those events. Love those events. It's so rare you hear damage to a vehicle because of a UFO.
Yeah, and then it was like I think one of the ones that I reported or stories I told a couple of weeks ago, same thing, but it was with the truck and that kid with the truck that got lifted up right up off the ground and spun around. So, but I saw egg shaped and I was like, oh, okay, let's read on this. So, also another little key component. It's not the first time that there's, recently isn't the first time that there's been egg shaped UFOs spotted, seen, documented. We're talking all the way back to 1988, all the way back.
You gotta wonder, that alien piloting that craft, he may not have understood that all he had to do was hit a little button and a beam of light would have gone down and taken control of that car. Maybe he pulled it up rather than, trying to injure your own craft. I think there could be an ICBC claim on that. Insurance claim.
Yeah, didn't have the L stuck on it. Right.
Yeah, no L on the spacecraft. See, in British Columbia, we have this silly thing where they put magnets on the back of your car. So if you're a learner, you get an L put on the back of your vehicle. And if you're a new driver, you get an N put on there. And if you get in any type of accidents while you have an L or an N, they revoke them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, poor kids with insurance these days.
Oh, no kidding.
Timmy, thank you so much for coming on the quick and easy UFO report tonight. Always appreciate you. And I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Sounds good. Good night, everybody. Have a good one.
All right. That's little Timmy James in the UFO report. We always appreciate Tim coming on in. Coming up next, it's the Dave 101 and the weird news of the week. Sasquatch causing it. This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. David Stein, welcome. Was on Jack Webster's radio show in 1955. My God, you must have been a kid. Sandra, I have to bump the air up on my CPAP. Yay me. Yay me. Yeah. Yep. I guess it's normal. Forget how to do it, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. That's what YouTube is for. I think I'm already at 17 there, Sandra. 16 or 17. Yeah. Maybe I'm lower. I don't know. I'll have to check. We're not coming to the South. We're not joining the U.S. Oh, goodness. What's a BiPAP now? I gotta see what one of these things are. Oh, yeah, I got that face thing. I got that face thing. No, I don't want that. That thing feels like it's choking me. I apologize I didn't get to the questions tonight. Oh, it's a different machine. Shaq Filet, how are you? Mm-hmm. No more shitty healthcare. Shitty healthcare is the bills that you guys get. I get no bills here. Zero, zilch, nada. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. The Dave 101 coming up momentarily. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in. hope you had a weird night. Awesome, to say the least. If you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It's that time of the week, that time of the night, where I yell at everybody to get off my lawn. It's the Dave 101.
Open up the door, it's Dave! Who? Dave, D-A-V-E! What is this?
Dave's not here! It's the Dave 101.
I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
Leave the killer out! Yeah! Leave the killer!
It's a mess. All right. I'm just going to get right into the UFO world tonight because that's what everybody is talking about. And of course, I'm going to talk whistleblowers. It's been a big week since Jake Barber and his UFO egg came out. And quite frankly, I liked the video. I don't know if it's real or not, but I liked the video. I want it to be real. I think it would be very cool if it's real. There are many players in the field who are coming out, like Lou Elizondo, saying, oh, yeah, this is real. Many others are supporting that cause as well. But on the flip side, there is a high contingency of people who have worked in branches of the military that maybe some of them we don't even know about. We're saying, no, man, we've had that for a while, and that's not what they're saying it is. Is it a balloon? Is it a hard-boiled egg? Is it a UFO? I don't know. What I saw was a green video, and I liked it. A green video of a tether holding something very strange in the shape of an egg from a real helicopter. And no, not a chicken-made egg or an ostrich-made egg. An egg about 4 or 5 feet long, maybe 4 feet wide. What is it? We don't know. But I started thinking about something this week. It's kind of picked my brain a little bit, piqued my curiosity, and maybe angered me a little bit. Prior to 2017, and hear me out on this for a minute. If you were in ufology prior to 2017, it was about UFOs. It was about alien contact. It was about the government hiding something. And I remember all the old timers that were there literally saying, if we could have one, Stephen Bassett from the Paradigm Research Group even said this on the show. If we could have just one person from the inside to come out and say this is real. And he said, say this is real. It's going to blow this subject of disclosure wide open. Well, now we've had a number of people come out, from Lou Elizondo, Jay Stratton, Chris Mellon, Tim Gallaudet, Jake Barker, Randy Anderson, Jason Sands, and many others come out and talk about their experiences. David Grush is another coming out, talking about what they know. And guess what? It hasn't changed a damn thing. Why hasn't it changed anything? Well, let me tell you. Because people who are in the know can only go so far on an NDA. And since 2017, where the internet found ufology and places like YouTube and Facebook and especially X and TikTok, took over with videos and people creating channels regarding these subjects and focusing solely on them, they have been some of the best and worst critics of this field. They have poked holes in stories, they've done their research, and realized that maybe some of these people aren't telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. But the other thing that has happened is they don't believe anything anymore. They don't want to believe anything anymore. They've had the wool pulled over their eyes so many times that the whole trust me bro mentality just doesn't work anymore. The stories of people having these amazing encounters like Whitley Strieber or Travis Walton or Calvin Parker or Betty and Barney Hill just aren't good enough anymore. Now, for many of us, like what we do here on SOR, we want those stories. We want to be able to capture people's stories for you, the audience listener, to try and listen to these amazing experiences people are having. But the root cause of everything, the people who want the government to disclose, and by the way, once again, I do not believe in disclosure, we are stuck. We're stuck for information. The scientific community wants the nuts and bolts. The people who are UAPers want the nuts and bolts. They don't care about aliens. They don't care about time travel. They don't care about what the stories are that people have encountered. They don't care about that. It all deals with the Pentagon and Washington, D.C. And good on this story for not going away. People like Tim Burchett and others refuse to let this go. They refuse to stop going after this topic. Nancy Mace, Anna Paulina Luna, many others joining that battle that there is secrecy on board, that they want to come to the bottom and they want to know and have it admitted with proof where they can find these UFO crash retrievals, where they can find the non-human intelligence, and the story will explode from there. Now, after releasing the JFK, RFK, and Martin Luther King files and having a deadline to do that, the next question is, will Donald Trump do the unthinkable and release the UFO files? That's up for debate. How much of it would be redacted? How about the bases where these crash retrievals are hiding? No, I don't think it's going to happen. There's too much of a secret there that they can't. Yet more people will come out. They will claim to be whistleblowers, and it's going to be more trust me bro situations. The public doesn't care about the NDAs. They want the answers. Unfortunately, these people who have given their time and their lives to the military and to the country at hand, they aren't going to break those lifelong commitments. They will take them to the grave. Unfortunately, that's not good enough for people in ufology or the skeptics and critics of this, like Mick West, like Stephen Greenstreet, and many more. However, the skeptics and the critics are not bad people. They just want proper answers. They're tired of being led around like a dog on a leash wherever the government or anybody wants to see or take them. They don't want that. They're tired of it. They're tired of people trying to move this ball forward, but they're running around in circles. That being said, people have forgotten to take people at their word. Look, none of us have held, well, at least I haven't, so I shouldn't speak for everybody. I have never held an NDA outside of a TV show. Okay? And I couldn't speak until it aired. Jay Stratton comes out with a little sizzler clip of him coming up in a documentary basically saying that he personally has seen a UFO and non-human intelligence. Now we have to wait for the documentary to see what is before and after that. But I want to know, did they ask him, where are they? What did the beings look like? Did they look like us? Did they look like the prototypical grays? Did they look like reptilians, mantid beings, or something completely different that our imaginations in Hollywood could not create? It's like Jake Barber, okay? We need to know who he worked for. We need to know where that film was taken. Was it at the range? All we know is it's the range, okay? Where is the range? Is that at Area 51? Is it at another base in Nevada? Because the video looks like it is in a desert. We need to be able to know these things. We got to be able to have questions. But the problem with a lot of these whistleblowers is they have handlers. Not only do they have their NDAs, they have handlers. Handlers who say, you can talk to this person, but we're not going to talk to that person. You can talk to this podcaster, this reporter, but stay away from that show, that podcast, whatever it may be. Now, the big supporters who believe everything will say, well, a show like yours, Dave, if you don't get them on, you're just whining and complaining. No, I'm not. It's not what this is about. It is observation that I have been able to make along with many other friends of mine who are researchers where we see what's going on. And that's the fact of it all. What is going on? Will we see more whistleblowers come out? Sure, we will. Do we know the story at the end of the day? We do not. Will it lead to disclosure? It might. But if it does lead to disclosure, remember this, it will be controlled. We're not going to get all the information. We may get Roswell or more bits and pieces than we've ever got. But don't think for a second the United States military industrial complex is going to give up anything that we really want. That's not what they're into. Their job is to protect the United States of America and the allies around the world. And they're not giving up that technology for the sake of you and me. That's for sure. All because we want UFOs. That's your Dave 101.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Loud noises!
I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
This story was brought out by our good friends at CTV News in Vancouver. I'm sure you've never heard anything like this before. But apparently, in a BC, British Columbia courtroom, Sasquatch led to divorce. I'm being serious. Here's the story. A man's ongoing efforts to track down the elusive Sasquatch in remote areas of British Columbia suggest he's capable of working and therefore not entitled to spousal support, a judge has ruled. The unusual circumstances were detailed in a recent divorce decision handed down in BC Supreme Court, which makes multiple references to the 57-year-old Sasquatch-seeking expeditions. It was one such venture that led to the couple's separation in August 2020. His wife told the court he went on a camping trip on Vancouver Island that month in search of the mythical ape-like creature and brought along an ex-girlfriend without telling his wife. The respondent was extremely upset by this, Judge Robin Baird wrote in his January 17th decision. Before the claimant returned home, she fired off a text to him declaring that their marriage was over and she never changed her mind. The husband's claims for Spousal support also hinged on him being unable to work due to a mishap that occurred during a previous Sasquatch outing years earlier. The court heard he was staying at a hotel in Sayward, a tiny village on Vancouver Island, where he slipped on an icy staircase and fell in January 2016, suffering a range of injuries, including fractures to an ankle and vertebrae. That unfortunate incident led to chronic and sometimes severe pain that continues to this day, the court heard. But Baird was ultimately not convinced that the husband was totally disabled by the accident or that he cannot earn income from employment of some kind or other, partly because of his ongoing Sasquatch-related adventures. The claimant continued to enjoy camping, fishing, hunting, riding quad motorcycles, and exploring remote areas of BC in search of Sasquatch, the judge wrote. Baird also noted that the husband testified with some pride at being designated a gifted student in school and had made it clear that he rates his own intellectual abilities to be far above average, something the judge found could help him find a job if he sought one. I accept that he is no longer suited to work requiring a lot of physical strength or stamina, the judge added, but he told me himself that he has made no effort since 2016 to seek or secure employment in lighter or more sedentary occupations, or to retain for better paying low impact jobs in keeping it with his superior intellect and aptitudes. The judge also found the husband's evidence to support his medical condition dated, as if it was the same he'd used while applying for a federal disability pension 6 years ago in 2018. The husband was approved for that pension, which is now supplemented by BC provincial assistance payments. He also received a $350,000 settlement for his injuries at the Sayward Hotel, according to the decision. Baird approved the couple's divorce effective 30 days after the judgment without awarding spousal support or legal costs to either party. So imagine that. Sasquatch led to a divorce. A leading flat earther has argued that one of the biggest scientific achievements in human history was staged. Flat Earth is a conspiracy theory that just refuses to die, regardless of how many astronauts blast into space and photograph our home planet in all of her round, glorious beauty. Forget science, forget photographic evidence. In the mind of a hardcore flat earther, we are floating on a frisbee where the ocean just cascades over the side like an interstellar waterfall. One of the most prominent flat earthers in the United States is content creator Mark Sargent. Yeah. So, as a man who is widely credited as popularizing the modern flat earth movement, Sargent regularly shares his theories on YouTube, believes planets are just lights on the ceiling, and even appeared in Netflix's 2018 documentary Behind the Curve. Sargent believes that his beliefs have since expanded beyond flat earth to include ideas that Bigfoot walks among us and the astronauts are just Freemasons. Well, Bigfoot does walk among us, though. So that's not really a conspiracy theory. In Sargent's view of space, the absence of conventional planets means the 1969 moon landing wasn't possible, an argument which he outlines on Harry Robinson and Carl Regler's Mad That series, a podcast which aims to interview the most exclusive guests and uncover the maddest stories. So what does Sargent have to say about the moon landings? Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, he said of the Apollo 11 mission. You see what resonates with the public. You change a few details, and then the story becomes better. Sargent then went on to claim that the soft spacesuits depicted in TV and film aren't scientifically possible, which suggests to him the moon landings were faked. Tell me how a spacesuit works in a vacuum. Tell me how it works, he said, going on to add that America capitalized on their post-World War II advantage to become the greatest showman in the world, which to some isn't entirely wrong. The Americans, if there is a rumor or a lie that would make us look better, we won't hesitate, he said. We absolutely will do it. Sargent then went on to add that his line of thinking was spearheaded the moon landings as a way to improve America's prestige. You don't realize what happened after World War II. The rest of the world was smoldering, he said. Everybody was picking up the ashes except America. America was like, let's start inventing stuff. And then somebody came up with the idea that's like, you know what? Let's say we went to the moon. Thankfully, due to advancements in space technology, it won't be too long until the average person can head up into space and settle the debate once and for all. How do you feel about that? Do you still think the moon landings were faked? There are still people out there who believe that. Now, I'm not a flat earther. Never have been, never will be. I'm a rounder, as they call us. I don't mind things being questioned. But when the proof is there, you just can't poo-poo it just because you don't want to believe it. I think that's the biggest thing I have with flat earthers. They want evidence, but they don't accept the evidence. Gee, sounds like the UFO field, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I would say. Mr. Ron Bumblefoot call. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the music Space Valley Radio. Rocking in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in that work at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Milcam, Facebook, Streamer, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Space Valley Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyrighted. Space Valley Radio is Smart Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us. Because together, my friends,
We're watching.
Yo, the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. Do me a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. And soon, my friends, we shall fly again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. So cool. So cool. Let me just do this. Jan 23, 25. publish that, Dave. It's happening. What is happening? I am typing out the intro to the podcast side of the show. That is what I are doing. So while we're sitting here waiting, any questions for me? Any questions? Ask me anything. The shapes that I saw just before my encounter, it started off as a square on the front of my head, moved to a triangle on the right side, and then moved to a circle on the left. Hi, applesauce. All right. God, I can't believe I get to sleep in tomorrow. No, this was one back in 2014 that I've told Christine. You said 10, 23, 25. When you... Oh, I meant January. I thought it said Jan instead of 10. Might have been my Canadian accent coming out there, Human Carl. No, it's not ready for download yet. A. Hey, Lee, Major Lee, be honest with you or with us in the chat room. The minute I mentioned how Jason Sands is coming on this show next month, how much have you been twitching and shaking all morning? Just curious. Your eyes going a little funny? Scott asks, sometimes the Canadian accent comes out. Caged on the inside. What do I know about Teri's reptilian sightings? I know nothing about that. I was very curious about that. That's why I want to bring them back on. Ethanol is asking, any chance you'll do a group meetup when in San Francisco? Oh yeah, if you guys join me at the hotel, once I find out what hotel it is, come hang out. I 100% will make time with you. 100%. Philip Blair, no, I have not. Pass that on to Dirty Filth, though, and he can see if we can arrange that to make it happen. I don't know about Teri's reptilian sightings. I know she mentioned them, but I don't know the personal side of them. She's never told me personally. Apple? About? Apple? It's an apple. How do you say apple? What do you Americans say? Apple? Or appel? Or apple? Oh, you might have to wet wipe. Yeah, I knew it got you that excited, Major Lee. Oh, a little. Major Lee's feeling a little frisky knowing that Jason Sands is coming on the show. Look at that. Look at that, Major Lee. A pole? Apple. It's apple. Drama? Do you say drama? It's drama. Apple? Oh, well, she's from Toronto. You can't trust anything that somebody from Toronto says. They like the Maple Leafs. And a boot? Yeah, the East Coast is more about the oot and a boot stuff. Alberta and Saskatchewan, like if I go over talk to people from Alberta or Saskatchewan, they are very much the same too. Very much the same with the oot and a boot kind of stuff. It's a boot. That's the way it is. It's not a boot. It's a boot. A boot. So you're actually saying the U. A boot. I will say this, though. I caught my father a number of years ago. I caught my dad. So when you pronounce a word that starts with WH, the H is silent. So it'd be whistle. He would go, whistle. Whistle. When? What? What the frick is that? What are you doing there? Like, pronounce it properly, man. About. It's about time. About. You know what is funny, though, is my better half, she actually says that when she hears me talk, like after a while, if I interview a lot of American guests, she says that my voice is different, that I sound more American. Yeah, exactly, Rob. Cool whip. That's how my dad would pronounce it. Cool whip. Not even making that up. Oh, and do you think of this James guy? Which James guy? You mean Jake Barker? If you're asking me what I think of Jake Barker, I think he has a story to tell. I don't know whether or not he was carrying a UFO, and even at the beginning, guys, he stated that he didn't know if it was a UFO or what he was carrying. He was just picking something up. He said they talked about it, but it wasn't until years later where apparently the UAPTF confirmed to him that it was a UFO. But there are a lot of people going after him right now, especially former members of the intelligence community and Black Ops programs. I'm watching this online. It's kind of crazy. Like, I wish I understood more about how the American military system works, because I would probably be more knowledgeable instead of having to rely on others about that. But unfortunately, I don't have that knowledge. And by the way, for our American friends, why do some of you pronounce Missouri, Missouri? There is no A on the end. Sweet Robbie G, I totally agree with you. If he names his contractor, I think that's a big step in the right direction. Elizondo has stated that he's the real deal. Jason Sands has come out and said it's the real deal. The people who are out have already claimed that he is the real deal. But there are a number of people looking into him right now to try and validate his story or put holes in it. Scott S., thank you for your service, my man. Missouri or Louisville. True. It's not I know it's not New Orleans, it's New Orleans. I got taught that early in SOR history. Or is it Hawaii? Hawaii? Or what is it? Hawaii? Exactly. We pronounce Mackinac, Mackinac. Hawaii. You know, that song by the tragically hit Bombshell Bomber is actually banned in a number of states ever since Hurricane Katrina. Yeah. That's a true story. You can look that up. Yeah, what the hell is a Ypsilanti? That's some screwed up wordage right there. Although very fun to say. Or Wilkes-Barre Scranton, spelled Wilkes-Barre. What the hell's with that? It's bad enough people hyphenate their last names. Do we have to hyphenate towns now? I interviewed Ashley McIsaac on this show, believe it or not. He actually saw a UFO while we're performing at an outdoor venue one time. All right, everybody. Tomorrow night on the show, Daniel Allen Jones is going to talk UFOs and cryptids from Texas with us tomorrow night. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you to Raven and Human Carl and Caged for the super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate that. Does the podcast end at the end of the show, or the podcast ends at the top of the hour? So it ended 17 minutes ago, the radio and podcast side. And then this just continues because we're playing. Driftwood, what is your go-to at Taco Bell? I love the Burrito Supremes. Beef Burrito Supreme. That's the go-to. And the I don't care for hard taco shells. I like soft taco shells. Any more questions before I wrap this up? Boy, I could use a Taco Bell. It's all right. A few more weeks. Rob, I made chili last weekend. Dude, I went through half a bottle of hot sauce eating that stuff. If we can have maybe pick... Well, Dave has to go to the United States 3 times, and I can guarantee that every time that I am in the United States for UFO Con, the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference, and Vegas, that I will be eating Taco Bell. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to go back to that giant Taco Bell on the Vegas Strip, because the mistake that I made last time was that I did not buy a Taco Bell t-shirt. And I'm going to change that. Maybe even a hoodie. That's how you get shit done around here. Anyways, everybody, thank you for a great night. Daniel Allen Jones to cap off the week before Sweet Robbie G takes things over. Appreciate you all tuning us in. And we will see you tomorrow night, everyone. Thank you for the love, and we'll see you in 21 hours.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.